Monday, April 21st, 2025. It's 2:43 p.m. Eastern Time. For the record, this is Yahweh, Yahuwah, the God of heaven and earth, on earth. So saith I, Yahweh. So, when is the earth going to take me seriously? Until there's no one left? Because I assure you, as I've put in the rights, which people should be checking daily in the post section. See, the problem with leaving everything up to the Spirit is it's kind of like saying, I'm going to leave it up to the people to turn on their television. Well, some people don't turn their television on for a day or two or three or four. In this day and age, probably the opposite. They turn on their TV more than they would, let's say, crack a book. The point I'm making is I try to have a 3-point approach to all people of Earth to make sure that my message is getting out there. Because ignorance is not ignorance is not a position of salvation, right? And by being understanding and lenient Elohim, myself and others, our plan, right? The heavenly kingdom as a business entity have accepted those for an eternal rest under the fake name, primarily because it was going to be used for the time now, right? To use it as a sifting tool, who can get truth versus those who can't. And it's apparently being very effective. But this is also why I emphasize this to the point that I do, because the leader of the world's most largest religion, the Catholic faith, it's a faith in Catholicism. It's a faith into the man and the pontiff. It's a faith into the rituals of men and the pagan beliefs they've picked up along the way. And in no way is George judged differently than anybody. It sickens me as the father, the true father, to look down and see people calling a mortal man father. He is not father. He is a man. To chase the little Pope mobile and to wait outside of a window for his decrees. I group you in with him. I assure you, as I sit here today and tell you, he is not in the heavenly places. He is not in the realms. And he did not know me. So therefore, his idolatry got the best of him. Because when you look at it as an illness that it is, it's putting something other than the one true God in the place of your mind and in your imager. So you're all like a little computer with imaging graphics. You can create whatever image you want in your mind. You can read and interpret religious text until you're green, and it doesn't do you any good if you don't have the conviction of spirit, which only I can give, so I know who and who doesn't have it. So when I stand justly opposed to all of you, know that it is not from a carnal position of flesh that I am somehow wanting men and women to bow down to me. You will bow down to me in death at the very, very minimum. So I have absolutely zero complaints as far as any type of fleshly honor and worth. Most people on this planet are so impious that that'll never happen. So it'll be up to the new earth state and the children. And again, I would like to spend my time actually teaching and having boots on the ground and helping in communities and putting forth thoughtful purpose, patterns, and plans for all community types and all places around the earth. No Pope mobile included. But that's for another day. This day is to not only, again, hopefully there is some soul out there, because apparently there are millions of people and leaders, right, that they want to pay their respects to the Pope as if he was something other than a man. And as I sit here and tell you, for me, God Almighty, I've done judged him. He's done been sentenced. None of the work. I don't care what charity. I don't care whose feet you wash. So the cameras could take a picture and stories could start to flutter out. In fact, that's disgusting. That people do works like that to give a false sense of holiness, but then rebuking the actual source of holiness, me. So, I'm going to be speeding things up quite a bit now, and I'll be taking a lot more. You know, I was a little preoccupied with giving George opportunities to repent and to get right, but there's so many man worshippers in his face that he couldn't even hear me. So if anything, you should mourn in black for where he's at. So I'm hoping that people I, have to take, I'll start to actually see hearts and minds that actually know me and that I can give a purpose to. Because fortunately, right, mankind does not, you guys don't have the ability to go back in time and fact check these things, right? So you have to go based on at least logic. So the thing is, I, being down here with you, essentially cracked the code, gave you the trail, and say, now research and confirm your faith, right? Confirm your faith in my name, confirm your faith in my being, confirm your faith in my purpose, what I'm doing here, what am I doing here? What exactly am I doing? What am I say I'm doing? All these things I'm making crystal clear. So it's truly, truly on the person to either dive into that and continue to affirm your faith. And then when you do affirm your faith with me, you're going to be in a position where you're going to be scared, because you will understand how real it is, and that should give you a bit of a spine tingle. But then on the opposite side of that, it should have your rational mind take hold and go, okay, so this is not complicated. I just need to make sure that whom I'm worshiping, whom I'm praying, refraining from idolatry, right? We're not kissing man's hands. We're not looking so highly up at our pastor, that he's above, apparently, me too. Mr. Pastor, right there, Tennessee. I saw you on Fox News. You're so lucky. I actually was busy preparing for George, because I literally was about to just lightning strike you right down, right as you stood. You know how ridiculous and infuriating you ruined, sir, my Sunday. The name above all names of Jesus Christ. You do understand, if you would have put more than just 30 seconds of actual effort and time into your education as a preaching man, you would have known pretty quickly that what you peddle is actually snake oil, and you bought it from the Roman Catholic Church, and the head of that Roman Catholic Church is now sitting in the furthest place away from me. A cold, dark, eternal abyss. And the same thing he'll have in common with the very commoners that he wanted to wash his feet with. The very ones who wanted to propagate Jesus. And then you say, well, God, how does 5 years ago verse now? Basically, it's just a closed door, right? All those people, nobody actually goes up and down to heaven. It's only that I've came now that I am judging individuals based on their work and then their understanding and acceptance of me. Which is why I'll be doing the exact same thing with the living as I am currently doing with the dead. I have been trying to figure out, for the life of me, how I can start making more progress faster, but remaining completely fair and just. So, the only really conclusion I really have for that is basically use the same process because it's bulletproof. So we're going to start off first of what actually is happening in the physical. So if you've ever watched an old school movie projector and you know the moment the lever or the switch is turned off, well, the bulb, right, the big bright bulb that shines so bright that you can see the pictures, right? It's how a projection screen works. Well, the bulb burns so bright that as soon as the switch is cut off, it still has an afterglow, and that afterglow can last for several seconds, 10 to 30 seconds, right? It's not a long time in that particular example. But the power sources of your seed, right, or your earth is also a seed that is in the darkness of the universal garden, and it will not sprout into the daytime, into the daylight, until I'm ready for it. But the light, the life light of the cosmos, Earth's projector, if you will, has been turned off. Now it takes 7 years for that afterglow to actually show up, not the effects. Because you have immediate effects, you have gradual, and then you have finite. So the initial phase, right, the afterglow will start to dampen, which is also going to lend way to more natural disasters, some directly controlled by me, some directly controlled by my angels. So it's kind of like a harvest. So me and the angels are going into the big apple orchard. Each of them got a row, and I pick up my own tool and I go into the orchard as well, right? I'm a very active God in participating with all these things in creation, almost like a scientist would see his conception or his idea, right, or his formula all the way through to the end, right? So I, as Elohim, also will see this all the way through to the end. So as we start cutting down apples, right, some branches are going to be cut, some entire trees may come down, and in that process, right, I may be on this tree, but then just because that tree's next to that one, it's going to start bleeding over, is what I mean. So some natural disasters will just be happening because they're happening, not so much as a written testament witness. I'm past the witnessing phase. At this point, I'm just in a transcribing phase. So technically speaking, the light switch has already been turned off. Everyone's EOT, end of time clock, has now begun. And then that's where we're at. And to do this quickly, because I can't rely on any actual field workers at this point. So these are things that I had built into the overall plan to have at least some hands of a human level on Earth to help, but there's really not many to do that. Mainly because, if we have one little group leader and 50 followers, but if that's all we're doing, right, we're just holding church services, like that's great that you're affirming your faith, but this is not the 1960s or the 80s or the 90s or even the early 2000s. Like, this is the end of time. The switch has been cut off. God's on earth. I'm wreaking havoc, taking souls. There's a population growing in the heavens, but also hell is expanding her gullet because there's now a lot more of them. So my point is, a lot of failure on the human part. For as much people that have been religious and have followed the Bible, and like, that's what I mean. And what has really derailed you is honestly, since the 1600s, right? When Jesus rolled out from Rome and then hit Spain and then hit South America, and then South America, essentially, the Spaniards, right? They settled America, and the thing is, forget all my warnings. Like I said, at some point I was really pissed about it, but then I thought, well, this is going to be a really, really good idea. I mean, it's literally written. You'll deny me for the name, like all these things, the same issue that happened with the name. And what I mean is, it's perfect plan design. I just didn't know it was going to be literally this bad. That it's like trying to pull that sucker out of a little kid's mouth. It's like, give it to me. And they're like, no. I mean, it's like, you can't pull Jesus out of their mouth. Like, it's not happening. And that's fine. That's fine. Like I said, I'm not arguing with anybody anymore. I didn't have a big shit show, this weekend. Everybody got to practice Ishtar Day. So, congratulations. That's fine. But understand that your leader, your white guy in the funny hat, yeah, he didn't make it. So, not playing. Works of your hands, another thing. Like, oh, but the charity and the goodness and the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That means dick to me when it comes to my kingdom and getting what I, as God, want to get out and say. Not what man wants to get up and think that I say. And definitely not ignoring me here on earth. That's a really, really big mistake. Because the problem is you guys think that your religion is actually fake. You guys think it's some like business scheme, and for the most part you all treat it that way, and that's fine too. Because at the end of the day, when your flesh is off, and if you have a spirit or a soul, right? So in this case, the soulless almost have it better because, they're the ones that are just going to be cycled into another energy, right? Versus the spirit or the soul, right? You guys essentially have an attached consciousness that is what's essentially going to be dwelt. And then much like a projector, right? Always needs kind of the white screen. Well, you will be your own projector, but instead of having the white screen, you get the backdrop of hell. Alright? So, anyway. So, I'll just jump into it, I guess. The closed loop end of time instructions. So we have groups. There's A through Z. And then we're going to have like the next sect, which will be so you have groupings A through Z. A full A through Z group is actually called a pod. But then after A through Z, it'll be A through Z1, A through Z2, then A through Z3, A through Z4, and then it continues until every person on Earth has been numbered. So they have been each pod. And it's not each group A to Z in names. It's just everyone's numbered. So like you all kind of have a social security number, mark of the beast, but let's not listen to God. That actually happened, 1950 something actually, they came out with social security numbers. But I know, couldn't be that time. Because for you guys, you guys think it's all going to happen in 30 days. Not that it's slowly been happening for the last 400 and 500 years. And even that, right? Giving you guys that much time and no one still catches it. No one still catches on. Nothing. Everyone's still got their thumbs up their asses and worshiping Pope Francis. You pieces of shit. So each pod is going to be tested for loyalty, adaptation, true intentions, purpose, heart, and obedience to me. And there are going to be plants. Not plants as in a rose bush, but a plant as in a worker from heaven, a being that works directly for me. So let's think of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, right? I'm looking for my Charlies. I'm looking for my Charlies because they're going to be the heads of the factory one day, right? I'm looking for my Charlies so I can give these men, women, and children, well, children aren't judged, but men and women, I'm saying, to go into the chocolate factory. Well, before anyone ever went to the chocolate factory, it's only been rumors of Oompa Loompas. It's only been rumors of my angels. Everyone says Willy Wonka. Well, when the gate is opened, such as me being here now, the name's not Willy, it's William Wonka. The name isn't Jesus, it's Joshua. God's name isn't Jehovah, it's Yahweh, Yahuwah. And that God doesn't have an assigned flesh. When that God needs to accomplish something on the earth domain with the humans, it comes in one body. That body is me. I am Joshua the body and Yahweh the voice. Make sense? Hope so. Okay. And these plants are, again, they're for my kingdom. They will stage unknowing situations to see the outcome in certain instances. More than likely, I know this may cause temporarily not infighting, but accusations, that someone's this, that, and the other. Again, I've also said that you should treat everybody accordingly because you never know when you're going to be entertaining angels. So this is going to be extremely true. And I'm also doing a little twist in this next chapter of our book called The End of the World. And that's where I'm going to be soul swapping some folks. So a few people might be wondering how the Holy Family from Heaven ended up on earth in the first place. And basically you have Josh and Ashley, right? Or Yahweh and Asherah. Well, think of it as soul swapping. Not that we soul swapped, but I'm giving you the example. Let's say you have, contender A in group B, and let's say he has an attention score of less than 1%, meaning this person is not really impactful in anywhere he or she goes. Kind of that loner anyway, not someone that is witnessed by many people. Well, that's the kind of person that I would soul swap. I would take that person and flip them into a rest, and then I'll put one of my direct angels in his flesh. But that angel is going to act and smell and behave similar to how the person is. If someone, that's what I mean though, but this person has before never really been noticed. So there's no one who has built a construct around that individual yet. So there's not even enough evidence or proof that person exists until I animate it. That person is going to be inhabited by an angel. That angel is going to be using, obviously, my power that I've given he or she, and they will be orchestrating certain situations for good or bad. But generally speaking, it's to test the entire pod. These are notes from upstairs as well. Some will even refuse they're in this, but as it's already been witnessed. So that, actually, I remember that now. So that was glimpsing into the future and seeing individuals actually saying, like, this can't be happening, this is bullshit, something, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so it was already witnessed that people will deny. It doesn't really matter if you deny or not, right? It's kind of like trying to deny oxygen. You can deny you're breathing oxygen all day long, but the only proof of that is you stop getting it. So that's how this thing works, right? And every person, right? Every person is going to be going through this experiment. It's experiment / sorting. Like I said, I've already been doing this with the deceased. As they are crossing over, they're being held in a suspended state. So I'm actually running this exact same thing. Same thing they are. For a lot of folks, right? To really see, are they going to take the Roman idol all the way to the grave into hell? In which case, there you go. I cut bait, they're down there. Or which case, is someone going to want to know me in its fullness and realness? Are they going to want to actually read the word when given a spirit? Like, are they going to actually listen, obey, and follow? Because at the end of the day, it's not how straight is your yarmulke. It's not going to be, oh, you went to that feast. Oh, you had done this on Saturday. No, that's not it. The whole purpose of a Sabbath day is for you to rest, right? It's very simple. you to rest and connect with me. Not ignore me because you're too busy out shopping to prep for Saturday. Or like, if anything causes you angst or separation between me and you in any facet, in any faucet, whether it be physically, right, as I'm here in the flesh, or be it spiritually, if you're asking and I'm not saying, or I'm not talking, or if, that's what I mean. Like, you need to be having that reach out. So as I've already reiterated, the light's already been turned off. The remaining time will catch up. So that's when I was referring to the afterglow. So you're actually just waiting on time itself to catch up, right? Because the speed of light, essentially, it travels faster than time. And once the remaining time catches up, like the time it takes the light to pass the event horizon, is where we're at. Your testing, your grading, and placement is all fluid. So I can monitor situations in pods, minute to minute, day by day. I've already constructed them, and I've already have placements. Currently, I'm roughly about 800 hours into the future, already etched these things out. So when I'm in spirit and I'm in the Ruach, I basically leave a little bit out to the side as if this pastor or preacher hits these green lights in my truth, what I'm saying, and acknowledges me and all these things, right? If they're doing that right, I leave a portion. I leave a double portion, almost of manna, right? But in the spirit for that person to use. So let's say Kohen Olam Yah, right? The individual so far has been doing really well to me. I don't really give two hoots about the reviews of others. And the fact is, his heart has remained steady with me. And I don't look for perfection. I look for earnestness, caring about my kingdom, knowing my name, and with the fullest of your heart, trying to carry that out. And Cohen is doing that to a T, and I feel great about it. So a lot of the miracles that he talks about are 100% authentic, and to the person who wants to mock and scoff and say, does Yahweh do candle flickers nowadays instead of splitting the Red Sea? Answer is, I do both. But in that same regard, that little bit of portion of power that I leave aside for if my teachers, pastors, or preachers, if they hit the green lights, they get that as like a treat, right? You get those miracles that you also will manifest through my name and power because you've hit those goals. So it would be, and again, not calling you a dog, but it's the easiest way for me to explain this. So it'd be like, if I'm gonna leave the house and I go, okay, dog, if you take your nose and hit that button 3 times, it'll give you 1 treat. Well, the dog has to practice, and the dog has to routinely do that, right? If the dog goes, screw you, owner, I'm going to go bump my nose against the wall. Okay, you can do that, right? Jesus is the wall in this scenario. You can do that, but it's not going to give you the treat. And versus the pastor, teacher, or preacher that aligns with my will, I have a portion set aside for you. That is a spirit of conviction and of faith that you can then take that as a witness, and then you will confidently be able to go out from your personal church and spread the good news of my arrival, who I am, the true name, and then we can really get that train going. If not, then we're just defaulting to my test, and then whatever happens between now and the 7-year period happens. I can tell you that all scenarios, 98% of most people will die and be sorted and then reborn into the new earth because they're just stubborn. But those numbers I can't change because that's changing the human heart. Those numbers can only be changed by those that know me, know I'm here, know my purpose, and are working for the kingdom. It'd be a shitty test that, if everybody, basically would get an A on this thing every time I came. Then we would have no duality, right? Then we would have, mankind is totally in line with Yahweh. Yeah, we shit all over his earth. We blaspheme his name. We actually chose a total name that actually has no rooting in biblical history. No matter what, we just want to man worship. And no matter what, I'm not going to have you in heaven, and I'm not going to lay your soul down to rest. I'll put you as an energy, right? I'll make you work it out through the next umpteen thousand years. I need that energy. And those with a soul and a spirit, you can work out your karma downstairs in hell with like-minded people. There you go. And yep, so you will have until the darkness descends. And then once the darkness descends, the 7-year period, essentially it will all leave. Yeah, so just a few more notes. This is the fairest way to include all people of Earth and to have you remain in your own domains. So some pods have already went through a forgiveness of sin but did not correctly honor the Holy Covenant, and I will reset the board one last time. I will elaborate on this. So I did a complete washing of sins twice already. The people that it washed, instead of having an understanding and knowing of my name, they reverted back to the Jesus thing. So it was kind of like shoot in the foot. So that's not the goal here. The goal is to do a washing of sins again. That's a renewal. So that should free everybody up again to get rid of that shame, get rid of that guilt, get rid of whatever could be blocking you to me. And then at that point, it's picking up the true name and having the confidence to do that, because you're not ever going to be confident in picking up the true name of me if you don't know how to research, if you don't know how to study for yourself. If you rely on a pastor, a teacher, or someone to prove it to you, you're in grave danger. You should prove it to yourself, and then you'll know that, okay, now you should be able to trust me. I've given you truth versus what mankind gives you, which is garbage. That truth is what's going to get you saved. It's going to give you that eternal drinking water. It's going to enable the things that you will need as a person or a group or congregation to move forward confidently with me, your Elohim. Okay? So in hopes this go around, I'm going to be giving that extra dose. In the spirit, that is going to be big C&Es. So like solar bursts, sun explosions from coronal holes. That can act as like a spiritual cleanser that I can do on a mass basis, and it gives that refreshing feeling. So it's almost like the MIB, right? Men in Black, where he gives them the flash and the guy's kind of like temporarily memory erased. Well, that's what it does to you, but it erases like your sin history. So the best thing to do is, when you get that, is cling to the true name, right? The true name is, again, not Jesus. That's proven. I need to move forward with people, and I'm not ever going to be called Jesus. That's never happening. And I don't deal with people that I'm not familiar with. And then you say, well, there's 8.6 billion of us, God. Yeah, I'm hip. That's an issue. See, the planet is way overpopulated with a species that was never supposed to be here. This is my only remedy for cleaning up someone else's problem. I will have my Earth back, one way or the other. Preferably, I'd like to just have my Earth with some good human beings on it, and let's see if we can get some purposes that line up with the bigger picture. Not having 8.46 billion brats on Earth that could give two shits less about their God. The one who works day and night, doesn't sleep, completely solely for the creation, and you people, you species, you human beings, not of my cabinet, are crowding the room and making the place look and smell terrible, all while preventing me, God, Elohim, Yahweh, from letting my angels and my heavenly staff that remain still in heaven, who are excited to come down into Earth. But I will not let them down in Earth until I get the human situation at an acceptable level. We're never going to get to an acceptable level if what I've seen the last 2 years continues. And now we are EOT. So instead of playing these games back and forth, this and that and the other, like I'm done playing tit for tat, now it's just updates. So your update is time has officially been cut off. the energy is already beginning to minimize in terms of, like, after 7 years, there is nothing else planned after that. It's done. That mark, there's not a soul left on planet Earth. So that means human beings better get busy propelling the true name. And that's another thing, you guys need to be, Fox News is all about Jesus. That's a problem. Like, you guys love to propagate the fake Jesus. You want to talk about Antichrist? There's your Antichrist. It's 1 and 1. It's the Satan's Messiah. You guys are deceived. I'm done putting up with it. I'm taking people and I'm moving on. Shit or get off the pot. So, but yeah. So, in hopes this go around, the giving of spirit will take hold, and thanks be to my name for it. It is a covenant with the person, and that covenant essentially is a commitment of saying, okay, I'm going to obey the 10 commandments. I'm going to love my Lord God with all my heart. I'm going to know that name, and I'm going to know the name of, if you want to use his son, right? Joshua, Yeshua. You can use Yeshua for salvation. You can use Joshua for deliverance. In your mind, if you need to break that up for understanding, I'm fine, but understand that it is one being that is operating in all these time periods. That's me, the voice talking to you, the voice here. And that's what I mean, right? So the human identity, that is a crisis of your own making, not mine. As God, I can choose any identity I want at any given time. This is the body I married. This was the body that was planned, just like the sacrifice, Yeshua, Joshua then, and the leader of the Israelites, Joshua then. That's what I mean. So it is not a complicated thing, and we're gonna get that right, or you're not, and that's a bad thing. So. All right. Well, hopefully that all helps. And yeah. So eyes and ears. Keep a good lookout. And yeah, here we go.